Twitter. For all the twits. We'll double check that we're live. Takes a second. Here we go.
Where to Hunt podcast. It's okay.
Hi, I'm Dan Small, host of Outdoor Wisconsin, and I listen to Where to Hunt.
Nah, it's okay.
I'm Kurt Geyer with Working Class Bow Hunter. I listen to Where to Hunt podcast, and it's decent.
It's all right.
Hey, this is Bud Fisher with Catching Deers, and I think the Where to Hunt podcast is all right.
What's up, Greg?
Oh, you know, living the dream, one COVID nightmare at a time. How about you?
Yeah.
Social distancing over there?
I am distanced physically, but not socially. And I'm going to kick it off. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Where to Hunt podcast. It's the podcast that connects public land hunting enthusiasts, a.k.a. the okayest podcast in the Midwest. I'm Eric, and you just heard from Greg. This is episode 128, I think. And today is April 21st, 2020. Boom. It's officially an intro. Look at that. Slayed it.
Nice work.
Had to grease the old wheels there. Let's kick things off by calling out our sponsors. The brands that seem to like us enough to let us talk about them on our show. Backwoods Grind Coffee Company. Check out backwoodsgrind.com and enter in code WTH Podcast for 10% off. Now, I'll just say it once. When you go to their website, take a big inhale through your nose because their website smells like coffee. Super good coffee. And then Gumleaf Boots. These are handmade rubber boots, 85% natural rubber with Vibram soles, super flexible. And go to gumleafusa.com, enter in code WTH 2020 for 10% off. And I think I was gonna say something else about those guys. I wore mine on like this whole last week when I was doing mulch, so that was kind of neat. Trying to do that in comfort and keep all that mulch out of my shoes. And Greg, you got one to call out today.
Yeah, I do. Vectum. Vectum.
Nice.
Wow.
That's a new one.
Choked right off the bat. Vector Custom Shop. Arrows built to your specs. They're thick-walled, heavy carbon arrows. They use the Ethics insert-outsert system. They can weight the front end of that thing from 45 up to 175 grains and build it to your liking. You can get a test pack, 2 arrows to try out, a half dozen or a dozen. If you are interested in checking them out and buying some, use the discount code WHERE, the number 2, HUNT, to save 10%.
Look at that. And
I'm really liking them.
I'm going to call out, we're not there yet, but if you look at the camera, there's a buck on camera. This is a double barrel bourbon. This is the first batch from a company called Drop Tine Spirits. This is 92 proof. This is our 12-point bourbon. I'm trying it out for the first time.
You're over there living the high life.
I'm telling you, man.
Over there living the high life, drinking Drop Tine bourbon, and I'm over here slumming it. I think I got a Pabst here and some water.
Dude, it's 92 proof. It is super strong, but it is incredibly smooth. I had some last night so I could, really make sure I was prepped for this and know what I was getting into. I also have their moonshine and their vodka. It's apple moonshine and it's corn vodka. Pretty interesting.
Ooh.
The proof is 92. So, all right, let's bring on our guest. Hopefully he's still here with us. Troy Fowler, the Ranch Fairy. Hopefully I'm saying your last name right, Troy. I suck at last names.
Yeah, that's close enough. It's fine. I've been called worse.
That's good. Oh,
A
man.
lot worse.
I was nerding out on your YouTube videos during my lunch today. And my dad told me about you, 6 months ago. He's like, you're this Ranch Fairy guy? And then Greg brought it up. And then I heard you on someone else's show. So you've been making your rounds. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you. I've been fortunate. I've had a few people call and think it's interesting enough to talk to a crazy Texan. So here we go, brother.
Hell yeah. Everything's bigger in Texas. Looking at you.
We'll see.
So give us some context. Tell those that, and you already got a couple fanboys in the room. They're freaking out over here. I can see the comments rolling in, but tell those that don't know who you are. First of all, how the hell did you get the name, and who are you? What do you do?
So I'm a 50-some-odd-year-old fart, and I'm an outside cheesy sales guy for a pretty large corporation and have a bunch of employees and all that stuff for the real job. And then on the sides, I'm still trying to catch a 10-pound bass, and I've only gotten into the 8s and spent a lot of time slinging arrows and stuff. I've been shooting a bow and arrow since I was probably 12. I spent a year shooting trad. I killed stuff with flint. I've done the whole handmade, hand-tied fletch, wood arrows, self-nock thing. And I got the name Ranch Fairy from our ranch, which we have a place down here. Excuse me, it's my family's place. And I took over as the ranch manager about 15 years ago, and I started calling myself the Ranch Fairy because, you know, plumbing breaks, scooter dies, tractor doesn't work, there's a fence down, and everybody's like, well, something broke, and they drive off. And somebody's got to fix all that stuff. Well, AC's not working. I didn't call anybody. Sorry, I forgot to tell you it's Wednesday. You were there Saturday. Yeah, I know. I forgot all about it. So they're conveniently ensconced in their house before they notify me that there's broke stuff. Bees in the blinds and stuff. So I flittered to put my little wings on and literally was calling myself the Ranch Fairy a decade ago. And I just said, just call the freaking Ranch Fairy if something breaks, and I'll come on down there. And I'm kind of wired that way. I'm a busy beaver. I got a lot of energy for an old guy, and I like to stay busy, and I'm real curious. So it always gives me something to do. Fast forward to, I always say this, my channel is about failure. So I shot a really good deer probably a decade ago, low fence, legit deal. I was scoring at 150s, and I don't care to shoot another deer. I also caught a 9.6 tiger shark and a 7.5-foot bull we released by hand and a bunch of other sharks, and I don't care to catch another one. I do things, and I get to a point, and I keep moving and go find something else to do. And those sharks were off the beach, and you have to tail rope them in the water. You get in the water with them about waist deep, put a rope around their tail, drag them up on the beach, take pictures, cut the hook, take the tail rope, drag them back in the water. I had to swim the tiger shark around for 20 minutes to get her to revive. I thought she was going to die.
Wow.
So I was pushing
Saltwater
her in
rodeo.
water. Oh, it was awesome. I'm in waist deep water on the ocean side, like an idiot, not on the beach side, not like you can jump out of the water anyway. And I've got her tail over my shoulder, and I'm pushing her dorsal fin, and I walked her for 20 minutes, and she finally took off. I wasn't going to let her die. So anyway, I started shooting a lot of pigs at the ranch. We just have a bottomless supply of pigs. And I was not doing very well. At one time, I was probably 30 or 40% on the big pigs, and you don't get a lot of shots at them. Everybody thinks, well, you got your bunch of deer feeders, and they just walk up there, and you kick them in the ass and make them run off a little further and shoot them. And it's quite that easy. So you'll hunt one, they're real smart, and you'll get a shot 3 or 4 times a year at one over 200 pounds, which is big on our place. They get bigger in a lot of places. We just don't have them that big. And I was bonking them all the time. Bonk means you shoot them and they run off and they laugh and you don't find them. Oh. And I got kind of pissed off. And it wasn't for lack of broadheads and arrows, and I had every device on earth. I shot mechanicals, I shot fixed, I shot this, shot that. And the only thing I had left to do was to do what Dr. Ashby did. That's the only book of literature out there that was outside the norm. And I said, to hell with it, I'm doing it. I jump off the bridge, get my longbow back out. I tune up a 760 grain arrow with a Grizzly 190 on the front. It was absolutely a street legal Ashby arrow as possible. It took me 3 days to bear shaft tune because this is 2014. There's no information. I'm just spitballing the whole thing.
No, recently is to when we've actually starting to see some pretty good information, via your channel and maybe a few others that talk about bear shaft tuning and kind of how to do it. So
yeah, it's not real well.
I'm glad I
known.
found you.
No, it's the key. It takes a lot of tinkering. I always tell people all the time, you can shoot 150 bad arrows a day. I don't care. You just go ahead and do that. Work on your form and make sure all your components match and your peep sight's the same shade of purple as the freaking riser and all that crap. I don't care about any of that crap. But if you don't take the time to get the arrows flying perfect, you're wasting every rep. You can't outform crappy arrows. It is not possible.
So
you can do it, but they'll shoot better.
The flight of that arrow is it sounds like it's absolutely paramount and critical among everything else. So
it's overlooked. It's 100% overlooked in the industry. Nobody talks about it.
Well,
why do you think that is? Is there like sometimes when yeah, sorry, Greg, go ahead.
Cut me off.
Because you're not here.
No, it's just like shooting certain bullets out of a rifle. You could have
That's
the
correct.
best rifle in the world, but if you're shooting a round that doesn't agree with the rifling in that barrel, it's going to be a problem. Yeah, it might get there.
Yeah, like
quick,
the Barnes X bullet. That thing's badass if it'll shoot.
Yeah,
that's a great bullet. If it shoots 3-inch groups, it's not a great bullet.
No.
Why do you suppose people aren't talking about it though? Like, what's that all about?
I think the last decade of the industry has said just slap the mech on there and everything's solved.
Yep.
I'm amazed at the people I talk to on email. I get 30 emails a day or messenger messages from people trying to bear shaft tune and working on their bows and this and that and piddling around with the test kits and all that. I'm amazed at the low level of information on how critical it is for the arrow to be perfect. It's unbelievable.
Well, I've only
it's one of the reasons why Ashby doesn't make sense to anybody. That's one of the major disconnects for Dr. Ed Ashby's 27 years, 2 rhinos, gajillions of random and sundry critters, and the 1,030 shots in the study with 113 data points per shot.
A lot of testing.
Right. I was worried about one thing: penetration. That's it. It's the main disconnect between me and the industry, and it's because I'm in the wake of Dr. Ashby. He didn't care what it took to get maximum penetration in every situation. He wanted to find out what it took, and it's a huge disconnect. And it's okay. We'll get there.
One of the so we had on like a month or 2 ago. I don't know. I have zero concept of time right now. I'm totally confused about even what day of the week it is.
What day is it? It's like summer when you're a kid. You say, what day is it?
Just have no freaking clue.
Tomorrow I'm going to the ranch today. That's what tomorrow is for me. I'm going to the test lab tomorrow, so it'll be fun.
Well, we had Vector Custom Shop on, and we talked a ton about the weight of the arrow and the shaft and all of these things. And like some people are like, well, the speed is super important. And they're like, well, you're never going to shoot a bow faster than the speed of sound, meaning like no matter what, the deer is going to hear something. And so like really penetration, like this is a new topic for me in the last maybe year and a half. And I just wonder how many other people are coming onto this as a new topic. So it's cool to hear
let me ask you
the progression.
The question I ask everybody: you having any problems?
Yeah, I gotta find deer first. That's my first problem.
Shoulder hits, or bad blood trails, bad days, lots of them. You having any problems, or are the deer croaking 40 yards away?
I have other problems, like getting to see deer.
We're not going there. I'm not a psychological counselor. Bro. vodka, or you take that apple vodka and get yourself straightened out. However, you got to take care of that.
You stepped right in that one, buddy.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Well, I said this to the hunting public guys when they called me and I was on there and got to get to know Aaron and Zach and everybody.
Yeah.
I looked at I didn't even know they existed because I don't watch a lot of YouTube. And I went and looked at their videos, and you guys are obviously public land guys.
Yeah.
I'm amazed at the amount of quartering in shots that y'all get by virtue of the way y'all do what you do.
Yep.
Okay? It's okay. I'm just saying that's your shot. You're you're hanging in some tree, you walked in there in the dark. Nobody trimmed the lanes for you, right? It's not mowed down like some of these guys who have tractors and put up a big field and all this crap. And then they know, the deer's out in the open. Got it. Okay, it's fair. I don't care. But you guys are different. And the amount of quartering in shots it's greater than 50%.
Mm-hmm.
Now that I've started watching, once I saw their videos, I started looking for other people who are public. It's probably 70% quartering or slightly quartering in. The deer's coming.
Yes.
You draw, and the minute they give you a shot, you shoot, because that's the shot you got.
That's it.
Yep.
You're right. You're absolutely right. In public land, you got it. It's a challenge. It's hard.
Yeah, and because everybody's shooting Twizzlers and the old flapper, they're shooting them in the middle and praying to God they kill them. The liver shooting everything.
Let's talk about the definitions. Can we spend a minute talking about the Twizzler and everything else? Let's break that down, Barney style.
I got that laid out.
I love your
vocabulary. So I got the ranch fairy language. You got to have language if you're a fairy. So I tried to keep it simple. It's like a shotgun shell box on the arrow weights. And then a Twizzler is all you clowns shooting a 400 spine arrow out of an 85-pound bow, and it's got a 42 grain point on it. Because when that thing hits the target, it turns into a banana. Go to the Ranch Fairy channel and look up Impact Paradox.
Great
I've
video.
proven it. What that does is when your mechanical deploys at a weird angle, the shaft levers opposite of the first blade opening and then waves like a metronome, dumps energy like crazy. That's a Twizzler.
Okay.
That's a very common thing because everybody's shooting under spine arrow trying to go fast.
That was me, but I wasn't trying to go fast. I was just shooting whatever the hell because I didn't know any better. I wasn't speed or weight. It was just like a.
There's a lot of people that Chop said, I'm shooting 70 pounds and 400 spine arrow is right. Well, whatever. So on arrow weights, it's very easy. So anything under 450 grains is a skeet load. They're fun to shoot at targets in 3D, but you wouldn't hunt with them. And 450 to 550 is a heavy dove load. You're starting to get to where you're going to stop wounding stuff to death. Over 550, I call it an adult arrow. And that's when you start hitting the earth on a regular basis. And that's on the other side. And I keep getting photographs of guys who say, holy crap, I killed a tree. And there's a bloody arrow that's buried in a tree. And then Magnum's over 650.
Okay.
And I'm currently running 760 and 27%.
So what do you
50 yards?
What do you recommend for draw weight on something like that? Like what do you have to from there? If that's our foundation.
Draw weight doesn't matter.
Okay, so that doesn't matter. What do you have to build on top of that foundation to get your bow to be able to shoot that? Does anything have to change there? What are you tweaking and adjusting to accommodate these heavier weights?
So I'm not a real super bow guy. I am terribly not a super bow guy. I don't have a press. I don't jack around with twist these yokes and flip the wing dingers and all that crap. It's BS. And to me, I just square them up, and then I make the arrow fly. So what I do is I take two different spines of arrows. I shoot 65 pounds and 28 inches. I'm 5'11" and 190 pounds. I'm about the most average knucklehead-sized guy you ever met. And I change the point weight and shoot bare shafts until one of them goes donk. And what that does is every time you change the point weight, you're changing the spine, the way the arrow comes off the bow.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know how many people know this. When you release an arrow it flexes like crazy. And it continues, and it flexes back and forth for about, according to the wizard, 20 feet or so is before it corrects and becomes plumb in the air. That could be sideways, but it's plumb.
Sure.
So I'll set up a target about 20 feet away. I put a weight on it, put it at chest height, and I take the bare shaft. I usually have 100 grains already in the shaft. I don't even mess around with it if it doesn't have a 100 grain insert. And I'll put a 150 grain point usually starting off, and I'll shoot the target. And if it doesn't fly real good, then I'll change the point weight and mess around. And that's how I get there. My shafts are cut to 28.5 inches long. I cut them to the front of the riser so they don't bleed, because adult broadheads aren't compressed and hiding in some slot. They are sticking out there, and they'll cut your fingers off. So if you have extra fingers in your pocket you can put on, then fine. I don't care how short you cut your arrows, but not recommended. So that's how I do it.
And is this kind of where the paper tuning comes into play? Is that kind of where people start to mess around with that? Because I was watching one of your YouTube videos and it was showing the paper tuning. It's like, once you get those bullet looking holes, that's kind of when you're onto something, when it's flying straight through. Am I getting that right?
Right. So I got a ton of people who do this through paper. And in my video, I said, just go on YouTube and look for paper tuning. It's already been done. I'm not going to show you how to do it. 500 people have done that. Okay. That's a good thing about YouTube. There's always some other reference point, right? You don't have to do all this stuff. So what you'll see is your first arrow may look like a nunchuck went through the paper, 4-inch tear. And then as you increase the weight and you completely change the arrow every time you change the field point weight, it's a new arrow, the way it comes off the bow. And they'll clean up, and you'll see nunchuck, 2-inch tear, 1-inch tear, and then get down to, when it gets around 50-cent piece size, you're there. And that's when you got to super tweak.
And are you just burning through that whole process? Because obviously there's fatigue in there, and you start shooting a whole bunch, and then you get kind of like, your arm gets like a hot barrel on a rifle. Okay, you got to just give it a minute to catch up. Are you burning through that whole process in one sitting, or are you coming back to it?
So what I usually do, my bows are already set up, but I've done it a million times. So I'm doing it about 15 minutes now. But if you're a beginner, I would just shoot 5 shots with 5 different field points right off the bat, and just see if something improves. Instead of shooting 15 times with 300 and 15 times at 275, that's a waste of time. If it nunchucks, change the point and see what happens. Don't shoot it 47 more times.
Okay, that's good. I'm glad you told me that, because I would have been the idiot doing it 47 more times. My arm's getting tired. What the fuck's going on here?
Yeah, right, of course. And to all you OCD people out there, I love you people. But don't get too damn hard on yourself. I got some guys emailing me, sending me pictures, and the tear's like a dime. And I'm like, okay, well, you're a human. And it went from nunchuck to dime. They're like, I just can't get it perfect. Woo! It went from nunchuck to a dime-sized hole. Brother, easy now.
Take a minute. That's good.
Fannies.
I'd probably be like, good enough. We're at a dime. Woo! I'm done. I'd be celebrating right there. But yeah, I hear you. There's the OCT guys. Right. Greg, you had like a whole bunch of questions, so it's your turn.
Go.
I didn't have a whole bunch of questions, but I could add to some of the stuff, I guess.
Okay.
Just like kind of backing up to, you asked Eric about his problems, and he's got 99 problems, and apparently Scotch ain't one of them. And but through my journey, evolution, whatever you want to call it, of bow hunting, I went through the problems of, shooting underspined arrows, shooting, thinking it's the bow, can't get there fast enough, deer's jumping the string, all that fun stuff. Then you go with a lighter arrow, and you do what the industry says, and screw on a mechanical, and look at that, it shoots like a field point, and it doesn't penetrate where the crap. And then, I lost a deer. I wasn't real happy about that, and it still bothers me to this day, 12 years later. But I went through all that stuff, and then I know probably the past 6 years I figured out I needed to shoot a heavier arrow. So I went to a heavier arrow, got rid of the mechanical, went to a cut-on contact type broadhead, a fixed blade with replaceable blades, a 3-blade. Had an okay results with that, but still wasn't real thrilled about, structural integrity of that particular product. You hit a little high, you catch the spine, you catch a heavy leg bone. The blades are junk. I mean, granted, yeah, they're replaceable blades, but some of us like to resharpen our heads. So then I went to a cut-on contact type head that I could resharpen. I get it nice and sharp. I've taken multiple deer with one particular head, and life is grand. Getting pass-throughs. I think the farthest I had one run with that type of setup, heavier arrow, cut-on contact broadhead, 40 yards at a doe. I dumped the doe.
Why do you think
like
Why do you think they're not running?
Well, one, the arrow comes out of that bow a lot quieter. Two, that broadhead is razor sharp. And if anybody has watched your stuff and you talk enough about having razor sharp broadheads, those things cause some major hemorrhaging. And absolutely. I think my confidence too, the fact that I know that arrow flies extremely accurately and goes where I put it. And even if it means it's going a little high with that razor on it, it's doing a lot of damage real fast. Pass through blood trail. Yeah, it's there. It's not Saturday morning TNN mechanical broadhead stuff, but it's decent. And when you can see the deer fall down in front of you, you don't need to trail it. No, it doesn't matter at all. So I rinsed and repeated that multiple times on a couple different, one property in particular. It was an area where I could go in there and shoot as many deer as I had tags for. They had so many of them. It was urban hunting. Nice. So one I had to be accurate. Yep. I had to take ethical shots. And by the way, probably one of the worst environments to try and shoot a deer and not get seen, because it's all park-like. It was a 9-acre parcel, and it was all white pines with the branches that were dead all the way up.
I'm sticking out. You look like a snake on a tennis court.
It literally does. I could see across the 9 acres. If I got down to the bottom of the tree, I had to get 25 feet up in order to have any kind of clearance. So, or any kind of backdrop behind me. Yep. So all my shots are hard angle down shots. Now,
that's the worst spot to shoot a deer with a mechanical broadhead on the down to earth. The best place to shoot a deer with a mechanical broadhead is on the ground.
Yes.
That's your best opportunity to hit something softer. But when you're 20 feet up in the tree, you're hitting the heaviest part of the rib cage.
Do you think the going with mechanical? Sorry, Jesus, I can't talk. I bit the hell out of my cheek. I'm just like struggling to get words out of my mouth. Holy shit! Do you think?
Take your time chewing your sandwich next
Dude,
time.
it was terrible. It's three days of this. I think I'm infected. I probably have a hole in my cheek next week. Do you think that the type of broadhead is really predicated on the type of hunting you're doing, or do you have any like kind of rule of thumb, best practice kind of recommendations to pair with a broadhead here as we kind of work our way down the shaft? Couldn't help myself.
I'm the big cut-on contact person, and the single bevels are next level.
Okay.
There's 4 levels of broadheads. There's single bevel, there's fixed, like one-piece monoliths, like a VPA 2-blade or Iron Will or something like that. Yep, and then Magnus and all those guys are in there. And then you got the component heads. Exodus seems to be real popular. The old Thunderhead kills the living crap out of a bunch of stuff. I remember when that thing came out. I remember when the first Thunderhead came out. That's how old I am. It was all the rage. And then there's the rest of the broadheads. And there are some hilarious pieces of crap out there. Holy smokes. So your goal, this is, once again, like I said, this is why Dr. Ashby doesn't make sense to people. Your goal is that arrow's in the dirt, no matter what happens, because you can't control. The minute you hit your release or you let the string drop, From that point, you can't control what happens from there forward. Right? It's not all shot placement because you can't control that. There's a lot of pros out there, and they're just hilarious. I understand what they mean. That if you hit them perfect, they die. Got it. Yeah, sure. That just hadn't happened to me a lot. And I'm not real convinced that the average 25-yard shot that everybody's really bad. To me, when the pros say it's all shot placement, you know what that means? You suck. And I think they're arrogant asses. I don't miss. You suck. I think that's what that means. Because it's glaringly obvious. If you hit one lower 1/3 right above the elbow, if you're lucky enough to do that ever in your life, they bleed like crazy and they go about 35 yards and just they run dead. I call it a dead run. When you hit them right above the elbow and it blows through them, their head goes down. They're having a major blood pressure drop. That is a physiologic effect, but that's why their head drops. I call it a dead run. When we do it to feral hogs, their butt goes sideways. the guy steering in the back of the fire truck isn't working so damn good. When I hit them right and I really hit them low and it across the top of the heart, their ass goes sideways when they're running off. And I'm like, oh, you're so dead. I'm not even going to blood trail. I'm just going to walk over there. And so your goal should, that's why I said the disconnect with Dr. Ashby is he was trying to figure out how to get the arrow in the dirt on the other side of the animal every freaking time, no matter what it went through. And the industry is telling us just try to wound your deer to death. And it's just a big disconnect. It's okay. I don't care. I've been through it, man. I was 30 or 40% on pigs over 200 pounds at one time.
Wow.
There's nobody going to tell me that now we've gone 10 for 10 shooting single bevels and 650 grain arrows. In the same situations, at the same ranch, in the same place over the last 5 years when I started keeping records. It was terrible. That's
smart. That's smart to start cataloging it to get some data on your side so you can have an informed conversation with people. So it's not just, well, it don't work. No,
So I have a 411 shots I've collected over 3 years in a database.
Jeez.
And I'm getting ready to publish kind of a white paper on it. It's not really my strength. I'm trying to figure out how to sit still that long and be organized. I like to laugh around and say wild ass stuff. And wild ass stuff isn't going to work on the granule. I may put on a lab jacket and get a stethoscope and get one of them silver deals that the old doctors used to wear on my head and do it that way or something. I got to do something. Maybe a COVID mask.
I'm going to be the ranch fairy for Halloween.
I collected 411. Yeah, sure. And there's a pretty famous study from up in that area. The QDMA published it called Does Broadhead Choice Really Matter? Or something like that.
Okay.
And they collected like 1,000 shots on this military base. And they basically came up with, we'd prefer you shooting mechanical broadheads. We don't think it matters. There's a couple of interesting wrinkles in that. They have dogs and big search parties of people that will come help you find your deer. They just kind of mentioned that at the end. You give me a freaking black, give me a German short hair, that's blood trained. Yeah, I'll find a lot of deer.
You'll probably find some that weren't yours. Where the fuck did this thing come from? I didn't shoot this one.
Yeah, right. They need deer. Hey, there's one. So
Man.
Since I've done what I did. I mentioned earlier, I bear shaft tuned this longbow. I get up to 670 grams, probably not going 150 feet per second. There's no freaking way I was going that fast. 54-pound longbow. And I snuck up on the biggest. I was looking for a test pig, 80 pounds. 2 sacks of concrete size. Nah. I amble up on the biggest pig I've killed to date. Spot and stalk. He's 265 pounds because I own a scale, and they're important to have a scale if you're shooting pigs because everybody says everything's 300 pounds. And when I got up to him, I was about 17 yards, and they don't flex in the middle. Like a deer can pick it up and rotate and look at you. Pigs just rotate like a barrel. And when they turn their whole body. And he was broadside. I'm kneeling on the ground. There's nothing between me and him. He quarters to me. And I said, well, Dr. Ashby, if you're right about this, here we go. And I shot him right in the neck-shoulder junction. And the fletchings disappeared in his body. It didn't even make noise. And hit his pelvis, and his ass dropped. And I thought I broke his back. He's spinning on the ground. And I literally stand there with my mouth hanging open. Because this is not my normal experience. My normal experience is bonk, a big loud pop, 7 inches of penetration, and we lose him.
What's the big loud pop? Traditionally, what was that indicate?
That's just impact paradox, underweight arrow, bad broadheads, probably broadhead blades exploding on impact, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, all those factors together, you just showed a major inefficiency of the whole system. It's too light.
Correct.
Too much surface area, with the blades deploying, and you got a heavy hunk of meat in the shoulder there, one of the heaviest, stoutest animals in our continent probably to shoot.
They're hard to kill. They're real. I mean, the big ones are real durable. I mean, they're covered in mud all the time, and they're just nasty. And that arrow penetrated 4 feet. I mean, it made no
beast
sound.
Of an arrow.
And he ran off. He ran by me. He started running. He had a look on his face like, holy crap. And he happened to run within, I stepped in his tracks. That's how close he went by me.
Jeez.
Wow.
And the broadhead was sticking out of his ham. And I didn't like the hit, blah, blah, blah. We left him 4 hours and we found him. He went 100 yards, blood everywhere because it popped his femoral artery. But that's because I penetrated 4 feet. That's a hell of a shot to be able to hit the femoral artery.
You say you're drawing back 50 pounds on a longbow too. Like that's fucking crazy.
Yeah, 54 pounds maybe. Who knows if I got the full draw, right? I just yanked her back and let it rip. And I never looked back. And then I shot a pig. I wasn't convinced on compounds yet. And I shot a pig that weighed 220 with a Schwacker at 17 yards with a Twizzler. 400 spine, aluminum insert, and a Schwacker. It bounced off. It didn't literally bounce off. It hit him. He ran by the deer feeder leg, and it flew out of his body. I shot him right in the shoulder pocket, right where he's supposed to be shot. Pigs have really funny physiology, and you have to shoot them forward and down. It's where it is. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. You can shoot them in the middle. You just won't find them. So I went back 2 weeks later. I got the same arrow going. I got the same arrow going on a longbow, but I went to 300 spine, 190 grain grizzly, and that same dumb pig came out. He didn't make it. Same spot, same damn stand, same spot, same distance, buried to the flesh.
Wow. And
he ran off and I saw dust. And I said, that's better. And I just never looked back. And every time I go below 550, just messing around, it's not the same. And this is all forward weight, by the way. Full Metal Jacket's the worst arrow on the freaking earth. Let's just put that out there. It's the worst. Sorry, I just burned everybody's butt who shoots Full Metal Jacket, and I know a bunch of the pros do. They're absolute garbage.
Well, you're not hurting my feelings.
Yeah, we don't give a shit. You can do whatever you want here.
Heavy, quote unquote, heavy arrow I was shooting for a while because that's what the pro shop said. That's a good arrow. You could shoot elk with that. All right.
Well, I find that to be funny because these jackasses are telling you to shoot 525 grains as long as it's a Full Metal Jacket and Cameron Hanes or whoever says it works. I don't know who shoots those things. No knock on Cameron Hanes. I don't know who shoots them, but I assume some of the pros. I know some of the pros shoot them because I get people tell me, but it's backwards. If you take that piece of garbage, Full Metal Jacket, break those things off, they're good for sharpening sticks. You can put a good broadhead on there and use it on a strop. Break it right in the middle, and it's a perfect length for stropping. Man, perfect. They're great, nice and heavy, really good for stropping. That's what I do with them. And if you take a regular arrow, you throw a 100 grain insert in the front and put a 125 grain point on it. Doesn't have to be anything crazy. You'll have basically the same total arrow mass within about 25 grains, but your FOC goes from 9 to 17 or 18%. And it's all forward loaded. It's the same basic arrow, except the flight will be phenomenal. And the arrow will not paradox on impact. When you load the back and it hits a little off, it shakes. Impact paradox video, Ranch Fair channel. Dude, I did it. I shot a 1,035 grain arrow in that.
Dude, you got to hook up with those YouTubers. I don't know if they're still around, the slow-mo guys. They have like the most expensive slow motion camera you can get. It shoots like the most frames per second.
Trying to get a hold of somebody like that. We've got a couple of colleges. Yeah, right. I'm on the Ashby Foundation board, and we're talking to a couple of colleges about doing some of that stuff, so we can do some stuff stateside. We're trying to get back to Australia and continue the testing. Dr. Ashby has about 4 pages of, gosh, I want to try this. And obviously he didn't test compounds, right?
Sure.
And for all those wondering, I've asked him, he's a friend of mine, I go to his house and say hi. I said, is there a heavy bone threshold because of velocity? Like, we already know the compounds are faster, right?
Right. Yep.
And he said, this proves the man's awesome. I don't know.
How about that?
You would think he would say, it's 650 grains and you people are idiots. God dang, I proved it. It's 27 years. What are you idiots doing? My study opened the whole continent of Africa. You people are idiots. He's not like that at all. He said,
no, it sounds like he's pretty open to learning some new stuff about a new piece.
He's so cool. And he said, I don't know. And I said, I like that answer, brother. He said, yeah, maybe. I never got there. He broke his back. He fell off a mountain. And the study was still underway. It stopped because he hurt himself. And he couldn't keep it going. He had funding and everything. And, well, there was a little problem with Zimbabwe falling apart, too. He had to leave Africa relatively rapidly at one time.
Yeah, there's that.
But, yep. So we're going to go find out. There might be. But I promise you, if you run 650 and about 24% FOC, you could shoot a white-tailed deer anywhere.
650,
I'm not telling you
24% FOC. What's your I don't know, what's your take, understanding of FOC? We've talked about that on the last couple episodes. I just love to hear what you have to say about it.
I'm going to make it real simple. The way currently people explain arrow flight is you're flying a broadhead pushing, you're flying an arrow pushing a broadhead. That's everybody's basic understanding of arrow flight. And that is the worst possible scenario because the arrow is very long.
I'm excited. I'm excited that that's where you started. There's a fly fishing example that I love.
What's that?
Well, so I'm not a fly fisher. I've only done it like 4 times. If you cast on a regular pole, right, like in a bait caster or whatever the hell, you're letting that lure pull the line out, right? You're pulling all that line out, and you're going to cast as far as the weight of that lure and the weight of that line. With a fly rod, you're pushing it all out. The line is what's pushing it, not the lure. That's why you can cast so far with something that weighs nothing. So anyways, that's how I try to comprehend this, I guess.
Maybe small. So the 99% of people listening to this podcast and 99% of the people on the planet who shoot a bow and arrow, it's just kind of inherently logical in your head that the arrow's doing the work and the broadhead's on the front. The problem is nothing, 0% of bones are square. Correct. The arrow is not going to hit plumb ever. Excuse me, let me back up. It will hit plumb. It ain't going through plumb. Very, very low chance. Ribs are not, nothing is square. You're not shooting a Minecraft character with your bow and arrow.
Okay, that's good.
How's that reference for a 51-year-old guy, right?
You got kids?
So when you get your FOC over 19%, and that's a 550 grain arrow running 100, 300 grains up front. So, or 250 to 300 grains. So 125 grain insert and a 125 grain point, however you want to get there. You are now shooting a 300 grain bullet with a tail. And the point overwhelms the shaft at impact.
So this gets into
That's
like
the easiest
physics, right?
example I can tell people.
That gets into some physics and inertia and a lot of that stuff, I suspect.
There's a tiny little, just this massive amount of mass in a very small space hitting the side of the deer, and it happens to have a tail on the back of it. That's why they're doing impact paradox. Because the point's pulling. It overwhelms the shaft at impact. It's not pushing anymore. It's along for the ride. And that's why you see this phenomenal arrow flight when you get it right. Because the point just goes, it's like it, in my head, I'm not seeing this. I want to do this on slow-mo as well. I think the shaft catapults. I think the shaft bends, then the point takes off faster than the shaft and pulls it. I can't prove that.
You might be able to, just
but
maybe
I've seen
not
it
right
on
now.
me.
Yeah.
You'd
And if
be
you
able
want
to get
to
it out
kill a
slow
deer,
mo.
right? If you want to kill a deer or a pig or a freaking moose, you want a bullet hitting them that happens to have a guidance system rather than a shaft pushing and trying to drive. A very simple example is hitting a nail with a hammer. You miss a little bit and it goes cockeyed, just a little bit, and it isn't as plumb. And then you go work with somebody who builds fence all day, and it's just bam, 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 bam. And you're whacking away and bleeding and thumbs are flat and all that, right? That's the difference. But like I said earlier, the disconnect with Dr. Ashby and the rest of the industry is he cared about what it took to get the arrows through the animals for maximum amount of penetration, and he could care less about the rest of it. Perfect arrow flight, structural integrity, FOC, et cetera, et cetera. The 650 grain arrow is actually number 12 in his list. Structural integrity and perfect arrow flight are the top two.
Wow.
If you hit heavy bone, 650 jumps to the top. And that's uncontrollable.
Pretty cool to see some people emerging. We talked, about Vector earlier. Ethics archery. Vector uses ethics archery inserts.
Yep.
I mean, how many people are rocking those guys? He's a really nice guy. He's willing to jump on the phone with anybody, anytime. He's almost always in a car. He calls us all the time. He's usually in a car.
Oh yeah, he's driving all over.
And he's
the place.
way
I
bigger
talk to
than you
Hoss all the
think.
time.
I met him last summer. He's a ginormous man.
Yeah, I met him at ATA this year when I was there, and we finally got to put a face. I've seen him, but I never had seen the whites of his eyes, as it were. And we finally got to meet and laugh and screw around and stuff. They make great stuff. It's bomb proof. I have no paid sponsors. I'm totally demonetized on my channel, and I thought I'm such an idiot. So I have vendors, I have people, email me and say, "Hey man, we'd like you to try our stuff." And my typical reply is this: "Hey, that sounds great. Here's how this works. I may break your stuff. I will pound on it if I have to, and I may just look at it and go, I'm not doing that, and I'll mail it back to you. I promise you no reviews, and I will not promise you I will use it at all. The only thing you might get is a nice letter from me that says, I don't like your stuff."
At least it's a nice letter. Hey guys.
Yeah, right.
I just don't like it.
And,
Nothing personal.
Well, I just get people send me stuff all the time, and it's just like, no, I'm not gonna. Nah,
Great.
not gonna do that.
We're out
And
of. I say we're out of Wisconsin, so we're close to the Vector guys. They're real close to us geographically, and they just commented in the comments. They said, "Great discussion, fellas. This is the philosophy that we hold to when building arrows. once you go heavy high FOC, there's no going back. Thanks, Troy, for the awesome continuing education. So
Yeah, sure.
they're a fan.
Yeah, there's no going back. If you will just jump off, and if your friends say stuff to you, get better friends. There's more people on Earth. There's 7 billion of us. Just get rid of those idiots and get some better friends, or do what I do and just don't hang out with a lot of people. I got like 4 friends I hang out with, and they know I'm crazy. One of my friends is so great. He's a great guy. He's an accountant, just one of my best friends. He says, here's how you fish with Fowler. Whatever he gives you is probably going to work. It's going to be beat up and have brand new hooks on it. It's going to be skinned up, tore up, tooth marks on it, but the hooks will be good.
Those are the
and
best
then Troy's
baits.
going to change. And Troy's going to change lures about every 10 casts. And if they're eating some purple wingdinger with an orange tail, he'll figure it out. So that's how you fish with Fowler. Just keep throwing whatever he gives you. So I'm a very curious person. And it's just the book,
Troy,
Yeah,
what's your like, I don't know, life philosophy outside of hunting? Like, what kind of advice do you have for people to get through this shit that we're going through right now? Total switching gears. You just seem like such an awesome guy.
Oh, yeah.
We'll
see about that. So
I guess I don't know you.
Yeah. The media's blown this thing way out of proportion, and I can't figure out what the dark helicopter stuff is behind it. But you just got to keep your head up and keep plugging, and be curious and go find things to do. If we had to make this silly adjustment like we have now, this is one of the most unprecedented times in our lives. Find a way to just make lemonade out of lemons. That's what I've been doing.
Nice.
And fiddling around, digging in the yard, doing whatever. It's not the end of the world. I have a very positive attitude towards everything. I just don't think it's going to be that big a deal. I don't think people generally are curious enough about their lives and what's going on around them to just continue to explore things to keep them going.
How fun is it though to have that mentality? And there's 2 people that said a quote.
I figured this out about myself a long time ago. I realized I need to be busy doing something, or I'm going to be doing something. And it may not be legal.
It's funny as shit.
I mean, I remember being in high school and just saying, we're going to get in so much trouble. Let's do this crap anyway. we knew we were going to in for licks. This is the old days, kids, back when they gave you swats at school. And we had to cut our hair. You couldn't have long hair. You had to wear pants at school. I went to, it was actually a killer place to grow up. I got arrested one time for a ticket I hadn't paid. This was back in the mail everything days. And the guy knew my dad. Pulls me over, speeding or something, Oh, hey, Troy. That kind of town.
Nice.
Oh, yes, sir. Hey, you got a warrant out for your arrest?
No,
no.
Shit.
He said, well, you have an unpaid ticket. I said, He said, I'm not towing your Jeep, and I know where you live. Just follow me to jail. That's the kind of town I grew up in. And so I follow him to jail. They put me in a chair, and he calls my dad. My dad's like, oh, yeah, Henry, we paid that. I'll bring you the paid-off check. Blah, 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 blah. It'll be all right. Okay, Troy, you can go. It's not like they couldn't find me. And I wasn't going to go out of the country for a damn speeding ticket. So I was pretty fortunate in that regard.
That's cool.
And then to have the test lab, just to shift gears back, it's another curiosity point. I'm a very fortunate person to have 3,000 acres that I run. And then I'm curious about this archery thing. And I have literally a bottomless supply of targets for live hunting situations. I can do anything I want to them. They don't even care if you find them. I've helicoptered them before. You want to talk about a blast. Hanging out of a helicopter with an AR is absolutely awesome, just doing that part.
Literally a blast.
And then you get to shoot at pigs. Are you freaking kidding me? So, it's a lot of fun. Stay curious.
Well, it's pretty interesting. It's by all means necessary. Get rid of that invasive species.
By the way, who the hell's going to call us? We got all sorts of people commenting here. Guys, the phone lines are open. Give us a call. Greg, ask some questions. I got to let this cat out of this room before he rips up the carpet more. Throwing pens at him.
You got a cat in the carpet. So you're building all your own arrows, correct?
I am.
You are. So I think I saw a question come through. What type of epoxy? Now, I kind of know a little bit of an answer to this. It's probably going to vary upon manufacturer, but whatever favorite arrow you're shooting today.
You're not going to like this. Actually, you're going to like this at all.
I am going to like it.
Freaking tell anyone
Okay.
that JB Weld plastic bonder works just fine. It's made for bonding plastic to metal on cars.
Imagine that.
Don't tell anyone that.
Okay. Didn't hear it.
Apparently, you got to have some other stuff, but I'm demonetized and no one pays me anything. JBWeldPlasticBonder.com. This ad brought to you by Troy Fowler.
Nice. Troy,
I like it.
Until we get a caller in, and not that we'll hang around forever, people putting the kids down, it's bath night, it's whatever the hell's going on in everyone's life.
It's fine.
Why don't you share with us your most memorable hunt, if you got one?
So my most memorable hunts are probably with my children. I started them off very young. My son killed his first deer with a rifle at 5.5, and both of them did. And on the ranch, one of the most fun things to do is just run around on foot. We've got this little single shot 223 that I bought. It's a Henry. It weighs 10.5 pounds. You put it on shooting sticks, it's like a dead rest. And anybody can shoot it. 60-pound kid doesn't even know the thing goes off, right? It just goes bang. And my most memorable hunts are being with the boys, driving around the ranch, see a big pack of pigs, chase them around, and blow one down, or maybe we don't, right? I have a huge family. My wife's the eldest of children, and I've got a crap load of nieces and nephews, 38 and going. And I am the crazy uncle. So my most memorable hunts are with people who've never done it before, and I've got a gun with that rifle. If you shoot something and it's your first animal, I write your name on it. And I have 39 names on it.
Oh, wow.
That are different. Yeah.
That's cool.
That's the most memorable stuff I can do, is just to get somebody out. And then I've got people on there who did it once. That's it. That's their hunting experience. They never went back. They just don't have access, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they're sure as hell not against us, right? They're not against us.
Yeah, they got to experience it.
And they had a great experience. Yep.
Awesome.
I mean, I've done Western stuff and mule deer, and I'm the worst elk hunter ever. There's just, if I show up, if I draw in the Gila and you draw in the Gila, call me and ask me what unit I'm going to be in. Because if you're in the one next to it, it's going to be a great hunt. If you're where I'm at, you're screwed. There will be no elk there, but I'm going anyway. And then I have a friend who's a huge Western hunter. He's taught me how to hunt out west, and he has like 10 draws out every year. He's a single guy, and that's what he does. He hunts. And I go with him, and I'm 50 now, and I'm getting to the point where it's just fun to go and be out there and shoot a dead elk on the side of the mountain and help him pack it out. And when we went to Wyoming this year, he killed almost Boone and Crockett. He had a rifle tag in one of the best counties in Wyoming. We shot the thing on the first day. We found it 3 days before season, killed it the first morning. And then we went fishing for 5 days on the Miracle Mile, and it was world class. We whacked them. So I'm an experiential person.
I dig that a lot.
Taking people
That's a good.
and fishing.
It's a good way to be.
The best.
Hey, we do have a caller.
Yep.
We got
okay, great.
We got here Joshua. You're live on the Where to Hunt podcast. What's up, Josh?
And then we went fishing for 5 days.
Hey, what's going on, guys? I just had
man.
a question. How you doing, brother? I'm the guy that sent
Great.
you those videos on Instagram last night at like 11:30, asking questions about arrows.
Absolutely. Yep.
Hey, I just wanted to ask you, do you put on pig hunts at your facility? And are they expensive?
We don't outfit. So I have a huge
You don't
family,
outfit?
and there's a lot of people down there. Just being the family. So we do not outfit. And unfortunately, the feral hog business is really, really hard to get into because everybody's got them. Like you go access deer hunting, or you're going to hunt, wildebeest in Texas or something. There's some select ranches, and they're all high end, and it's a lot of fun. The pig business is very difficult to sort through, and I've been trying to find some outfitters that are reputable, but that hasn't happened yet. But we don't outfit, and I'm sorry about that. It would be super fun. I've thought about doing some, ranch fairy gatherings or something like that, and get some people down, and I just haven't been able to put it together.
No, that's cool. No, it's fully understandable.
Oh, it's super fun. I would, put you up and let you shoot. We could laugh and giggle, and you can hang out with a crazy person for a couple of days.
You got to take care of your own.
You got any other questions, Josh?
Gel on this little product. Twist to the washing.
Did we lose him?
Breaking up a bit there, Josh. It's super choppy. Try again. Try that question one more time. Oh, he's got poor cell reception.
I think we lost him.
Sorry, man. Next caller.
Next. Thanks, Josh, for calling in. We appreciate that. He did say something about the transcription's not always so great, but from what I could read, something about Serious Archery products. He wondered if you had any opinion on that, maybe.
Well, they've got a kit named after me, so yeah, I have an opinion on that. They are great arrows. I'm shooting them right now, and we haven't broken any, and things die. They tune out real nice. They've been good stuff. All ethics components and et cetera, et cetera.
Sweet.
We do have one more person in the queue. Who do we got? It's processing. I'd like to see who it is first, so I don't bring on another prankster. We haven't had a prankster in a while. That doesn't mean I'm inviting anybody to prank, but
that'd be fun.
We got Jeff.
Oh, it is.
Jeff on the line. You're live on the Where to Hunt podcast. I think we know which Jeff this might be.
How do you know that?
Because I can tell by the way you sound.
Because you don't, because you're a wannabe. That's all.
Oh, boy.
He's a hack.
No, Troy, thank you for all the YouTube sensational videos out there. You've brought hours of enjoyment to my son and I because we're archery fiends just like you. So thank you very much.
Yeah, sure.
My question here is, my son does a lot of competition shooting with the archery stuff, and last year he nerded it up real good, and he did a physics project in his 7th grade class studying the effects of mass and FOC on his archery setup and what that did for accuracy at long range. In his long range at that time was probably out to 50 yards. So he studied from 20 to 50 yards. And he got the ethics kits, and he went and ran a whole gamut of, point weights with, what was it, a 300 grain spine at that time, and did his little studies and things like that. So what, in your opinion, is the best setup, or what would you recommend for a point weight, or what have you found if you're going to try to not worry about punching through an animal, but if you're going through a accuracy situation, you want to take it up a notch? Because in our study, we found that, there's a sweet spot, and his sweet spot was a 200 grain tip up front, and that shrunk his groups down the tightest. I was wondering if you did any studies like that or found anything, regarding that part of the sport.
Your goal should be about 17 to 19% FOC, and that's where it starts to suck up.
Mm-hmm.
And then it gets better as you go up. I haven't had any trouble. I've got some 28% arrows here. They're real hard to build. They're about almost 800 grains, and they shoot like darts. So with his, I would assume his draw length's relatively short. How old is
it? Is. He's right now, he's 14.
Okay, so he's shooting a 26-inch arrow?
I think it's right now, the way it's cut for everything, I think it's right around 28.
Okay. Well, as the arrows get shorter, the FOC goes through the roof. And so what he's probably, how much draw weight is he pulling?
I think right now it's about 43, 44 pounds.
So he's shooting a 400 spine arrow.
Yeah, this setup is at a 375.
But what's the spine of the arrow? Is it 400?
No, it's a 375. It's an Easton arrow, a target arrow for that.
Oh, it's under 400. So it's super light grains per inch.
Yes, it's probably, what is it? I think 6.9.
Right. So his FOC's off the chart. Right. That's one of the
Yeah,
things
it's
that's
funny.
hard for adults is when you shoot a 250 spine arrow because you have to, because it won't fly straight.
Yeah.
Your FOC goes down, but you remember Ashby's first two are structural integrity and perfect arrow flight. So it's a give and take there. He's got the best of both worlds. I've got women. A friend of mine's wife shoots 575 grains at 24 and a half inches, pulling 43 pounds.
Wow.
And she shoots through bull nilgai with that thing. I don't even know if you know what a nilgai is, but they're about 500 or 600 pound horse with a little tiny head.
Yep.
And she shoots through them.
Yeah, it's funny you threw that 17% out there because he was shooting with that same 375 spine. He had a 125 grain tip on there. So today at lunch, we went down to the hardware store and we got some steel rods. And with those points, they got a cavity on the inside. So we just hot melted a few different lengths to play around with it. And I think that is probably right around 200 now up front on that. And when I calculated it, the FOC was right around 17%. So it was kind of
How
funny.
do you calculate that, Jeff, since you're here?
And
how do you calculate the FOC?
there's all kinds. You can just go on YouTube and look that up. There's a million ways to do it. It's measuring
I
it,
use
dividing
the,
it by half, and
I use
measuring
the
the
gold
balance
tip. I
point.
just use the gold tip calculator. It's easier.
That's an easier way, yes.
Okay, I need the easiest way possible. For everyone that knows me, I don't know how to do math well.
Yeah, right.
So
Yeah, but
That's
right
perfect.
off the bat, when we threw that steel rod in there, his group shrunk up real tight, at like 40 yards with that. So that was super encouraging. But
Well,
I'm
that
glad that
corresponds
you're
with
confirming
fixed
what
blade
we're hearing.
heads, too, right? So
Mm-hmm.
if you get your FOC over 17%, all of a sudden fixed blades aren't a problem. Remember,
Yep, they're not going to drift.
the point is pulling the tail,
Yep.
like I talked about earlier. And I don't have any. I literally go in the field with probably 6 different broadheads on. And just for the hell of it, I'm shooting 20 yards, so it doesn't matter. I shoot 760 or 550. And the energy dump from zeroing at 760, a 550 grain arrow, it's hilarious. They don't shoot that much higher
Mm-hmm.
because the bow has a bunch of energy left that it never uses. So you just hold the bow and blast them.
Let her
that
rip.
laugh, man.
I did that to a pig one time. I don't know what I was going to try. And this pig would not turn. And I had a 680 grainer in there. And I said, okay, fine, you're not going to turn. I just switched arrows, single bevel 680, right on the point of the shoulder. You're not going to turn, 1/4 fine. Broke his back. Oh, don't have to go chase him around when that happens. Good talking to
Game
you, man.
over.
I'm glad your son is got it tightened up. If more people would, don't tell anybody, but that's what the FIDA guys do. Shh. Don't tell anyone. It's
All
one
right,
of the
I'll let you
dumbest
guys go.
things in the industry. Yep. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
Take care, bud.
Thanks
Bye.
for calling in, Jeff.
Yep.
All right. Anybody
There's
else
also
wants to
a lot of
call
indoor
in?
spot
We'll
shooters that
we'll
do
leave it
that.
open for a little bit. So if you want to sneak a phone call in, looks like a few folks are watching. Shane, I know you've hunted around the world. I'm calling them out specifically. I can see the folks watching. My buddy Shane's a huge SCI guy. He's hunted all over the world. So I imagine you've hunted some
Nice.
big game. Who else on here? Doug Liverveen, if you want to call in, lines are open. I'll leave it at that. If anyone else wants to call in, the number's on the screen. I don't know, any
I did
like
see a question come in.
yeah. Any departing thoughts? Troy, anything like that we didn't ask you, that we didn't cover, that you're like, I can't believe these idiots didn't ask me this question. Anything like that?
No, I think it was a pretty normal discussion. I just want everybody to be encouraged. This process takes some time. And just like I said earlier, you can shoot 100 bad arrows or you can find one that flies awesome.
Yeah.
Sure.
And
And knock tuning is what
the-
takes the time, right?
Yeah, knock tuning is what takes the time. So let's dive into that real quick. We just said those 2 words, and it's black magic. So
Uh-huh.
if you're paper tuning and, okay, let's back up. Carbon arrows are a tube that has a seam. Aluminum's an actual tube. It doesn't have a seam. Back in the old days, nobody ever shot those. But carbons have a seam. So there's a stiff side, and then as you rotate the knock, that stiffness changes how it interacts with that stiff piece. you can bend the shafts and figure out where the stiff spot is, or I prefer to shoot them bare shaft and noctune them. It's black magic. So you go through shoot a bunch of different field points, whatever arrows you choose to get. You go from nunchuck to say, 50-cent piece tear or a little smaller. Then you start rotating, then you just grab the nock and twist it an eighth of a turn and shoot it again. And shoot it again and shoot it again. You won't believe what happens. It'll go up, it'll go sideways, and all of a sudden it'll go whack. It is magic. And that's the next level of the next level. The first level is just find what bullet your gun wants to shoot. If I was going to spit all that, most people have pretty good luck around 250 up front. That seems to be the first sweet spot. 100 grain insert, 125 grain point, or 300 grain point, and a little insert, whatever. 250, somewhere in there on a 300 to 250 spine arrow for a normal person seems to be the beginnings of, from nunchuck to a pretty good bullet hole.
How does that differ from bare shaft tuning? What am I going to learn with that?
No, that's bare shaft tuning.
That's
so you're shooting bare
just
shaft.
A different call. It's just called something else. You call it something different?
No, bare shaft tuning. What he's trying to say is that's what's going to fine tweak your arrow.
Okay.
You're going to make sure that arrow hits plumb, and that's the process I've been kind of posting about and going through. Now that I got my bow all squared up with a new string and broke in and all that fun stuff, that's what I've been working on doing. I've been playing with different point weights, and you'd be surprised. I can go from 100 grain point, just something messing around. It doesn't fly that great. You can actually see it kick sideways in midair, and then it hits the target on a little bit of an angle. Mm-hmm. That's no good. Move on to a 125 or a 150. I've got a couple of different loads that work well. 200 starts to look pretty nice. 250 hits real good. 300 starts to get a little sideways again, and I've kind of stopped there.
The spine out. Yeah, that's when you blow the spine out. That's fine.
Yep. Yeah.
And
heavy duty.
And then when you find the one that shoots about the best and starts to really improve, start turning the nock in the back of the arrow, and it'll clean up. Now, you may have a couple go sideways the other direction or something. Just be patient, okay? Take your Xannies or drink some alcohol or whatever you got to do to calm down, and just stand there and, keep banging away. And all of a sudden, it'll go wonk, and you mark that spot on the shaft with a Sharpie.
Yep, that's what I've been doing.
And then
as soon as I get them to
orient in that position.
Yep, and then you go and fletch them up, and you can shoot them. You can shoot them through paper again if you want. Do some fine tweaking.
It's tedious. This is crazy.
On it.
And
it is. It's very tedious.
My dad's in the chat
but
here.
But it also tells you how tedious the sport is.
Well, right. You need to take it seriously. You need to go through this stuff. It's just interesting. How do you begin? Like, there's a lot of people that just have been told the wrong shit. I know we talked about where to start, but if we're going to come full circle, how do you start? What do you need to do to go down this path? What's your maybe read Greg's blog articles on our website? I don't know. Where is there a YouTube video that you have?
I got a ways to go on those yet.
Shut up, modest Greg.
Up, I can continue writing.
But
all right. Well, there's a good place to start. There's I got 2 videos that'll absolutely blow all your minds and make you sad at some level, or maybe happy. I don't know. So go on my channel. Ranch Fairy is pretty easy. Just Google it. Nobody names themselves Ranch Fairy in the flat brim, muscled up, super tan, fake tan, muscled up, steroid freaking bow hunting world. And I'll come up. You'll see my grinning ass in some video. And then get on there, and I have a playlist called High FOC Arrow Builds. And then
what's it called? High FOC.
You want to see the high FOC. Go on the playlists.
Okay.
And then the first 2 videos on that playlist are the first 2. One explains why you want to shoot a high FOC and heavier arrow, and the basics of it. And the next one is the hand load video. To talk about the process of getting 2 different spines of arrows, whatever flavor you want to shoot, getting a pack of field points from 100 to 200 grains, or if you want to go Magnum from 200 to 300 grains, and shooting through those field points to find the one that shoots the best for your bow.
Thank you.
And it's tedious. But let me tell everybody who's listening, it sucks. I'm getting 24 arrows next week. It sucks. Because once you do it, you can't go back. I got friends. I've got a couple of very dear friends who will not do this stuff. They say that Jesus was unable to have people believe in him or perform miracles in his own town because they said, that's the dude from Bethlehem. We know that, idiot. But everywhere else, they believed in him, right? So I got a couple of close friends who were like, yeah, well, your YouTube channel, you're kind of a clown. I killed an elk. I mean, I love them. They're my best friends. And I can see their arrows come off, and I can see it in the air.
Yep.
I can see it. And I just go, ugh. And I got a very dear friend who's lost 4 pigs at my place. And I give him my stuff, and it shoots like a dart. And he's like, I have to move my sights. Yeah? And, okay. Is that a problem? So everybody out there, this is a very tedious process. And it's not just because I want to be awesome and make you, snort the fairy dust and do the tedious process. Bows suck. They are very tedious things. Mm-hmm. I did not realize this early on. They are very tedious. You're shooting offhand, which you would never recommend with your 30-06 blowing across a canyon. You would never shoot offhand, with rare exception. No one would tell you to do that. They say do something, throw it on your backpack, do something, get that gun down. So you're already shooting offhand. Nobody releases the same. And by shooting the arrows bare shaft through the field points, I think you're getting the arrow to shoot the way you shoot.
Yep.
Yeah, that's cool.
You're patterning for your inefficiencies.
Whatever thing you do, I think, because I give my bow bare shaft to somebody else and they can't do it. That's the only way I've tested that. They can't. It won't shoot bare shaft for them, and it shoots bare shaft for me.
Well, normally I'd
that's
wrap
an
up.
eye-opening experience.
I'd wrap up with how do people find you and all that good stuff. You have one of the most unique names. My wife's like, "What do you mean he calls himself the Ranch Fairy? What does that mean?" I'm like, I don't know. Who cares? Freaking! She's like, "What are you watching in there?" I'm like, "I'm doing homework. All right, I'm trying to."
Yeah, right. What is that? Right? It's some crazy porn channel or something. So, that was an absolute stroke of genius, right? I'm not a very good marketing person, but in YouTube, you have to either have millions of followers, or be unique enough that you get a lot of run on Instagram and whatever. Or you have a name no one forgets and no one will use. And I'm in that category.
Yeah, that's a great category.
There's not
to
a
be in.
damn person out there that's tried to make themselves the Ranch Fairy. They're not doing it. They don't have the sack.
You gotta get a shirt that says snort the ranch pixie. What'd you call
Snort
it?
the fairy dust.
The
Yeah.
fairy dust. If you don't have a
Fairy
shirt that
dust.
says
Fairy
that already, I think you just got your next one.
No, not yet. I need to get one. I'll probably have one for ATA if they happen to have it again. It'd be fun to truck around with all the bowed up guys there. That place is, God, the testosterone's off the chart. The poserdom, the lift kits and the lots of stickers and custom exhaust and all that is just blowing off the charts in that place. So that's why I discovered this change shooting pigs and killing killing them like 40 yards, killing them, not all night out there and stumble up on one half dead and have to blast them with a deer rifle, right? Like shooting them and saying that's a dead pig. Give it 10 minutes and go get it.
So if we're down in Texas, because we have an invitation from someone else to go to Texas to shoot hogs, I'm wondering if we should hit you up while we're down there. I don't know if you. I know.
Well, I can't say that publicly, but you can email me.
Yeah. All right. Well, we got it.
There's no hitting.
Yeah, email me maybe. Just maybe.
We're gonna have
If
some
you're
fun.
in Texas, holler at me. We'll see
We're
what
gonna have some
happens.
fun. After all this
I don't
quarantine
outfit,
stuff.
but I can make things happen.
All
Y'all need
good.
to come down. It'd be fun.
All good.
I'm planning to have the hunting pod guys down in June. We'll see if that happens. They're pretty damn busy, so we'll see. We talked about it, but I don't know if they're going to be able to make it. But I'm going to do some collaboration stuff like that. This year, I had 2 or 3 deals set up, and this stupid COVID thing got it. And just to do some, I was trying to get Nate Sellers and Garrett from Average Jack, and get Garrett from DIY Sportsman down. Their wives are starting to bow hunt.
Oh, cool.
Well, cool. I can put them in front. I can put something in front of them. That's not a problem, you know. And just the whole COVID thing killed that. So I've been fishing for 10-pound bass and still going to the ranch, which I'm going tomorrow, and picking up a new Kawasaki mule, and probably something's going to die.
Probably someone's gonna die. That's good. That's good.
Yeah. Iron Will sent me some broadheads the other day, and so I'm going to give those things a rip.
That's awesome.
I've been happy with mine. I mean, I've taken some hard quartering 2 shots on whitetails. You know, granted they're no hog, but through the oncoming shoulder, through, you know, the whole chest cavity and out the other side and breaking the leg bone and having a complete pass through. It's a good head. I like it.
I'll give them kudos for it's one of the sharpest heads I've handled out of the package.
Yep.
I strop everything now, and I barely had to strop those. Most heads I need to strop. I need to put some work on them, just because, once again, back to the Aerofly thing. Once you've learned how to sharpen a broadhead where it'll just, cut paper with almost no sound, and then you shoot animals with it and you just see the difference, you can't go back. I can't go back. And I am as guilty as the next clown here of not taking care of my broadheads.
Oh yeah.
For 20 years, man.
Yeah. That's where I'm at.
It's a very overlooked part of this sport.
I have some unspoken obligation to listen to the folks that I talk to on these podcasts, because I'm learning right now. You know, I've been a sponge on this episode. I ask very selfish questions, and that's why I like that we have people I can call in. You can ask your own questions on this show if I'm not asking what you want to hear. But for that reason, it's like I have to follow this advice. Now, Greg's going to have to hold my hand and help me figure this whole shit out, and I'm going to get there.
Well, just get a jig. Just get a jig. You can get a
I can do
KME
that.
jig. Innovative Outdoorsman guy makes a really inexpensive jig system that allows you to keep the angle plumb, and you can sharpen just about anything. But the strop, you look on the internet for strop. There's 1,000 videos for the knife guys, and a strop is unbelievable what a piece of hard leather that's slicker than a piece of glass will do to a blade.
Cool.
Takes all the burrs right off.
It's unbelievable. And so everybody listening, hang in there. Here comes another dumb ranch fairy story that you may just get tired and hang up. No broadhead improves at impact. There isn't one out there that's self-sharpening on impact. Secondarily, shredded blades are not a good thing. You want absolutely surgical precision cuts. There's this thing called the clotting cascade I will not get into. It is basically internal fix-a-flat. It is a fact. It is a physiologic fact. You have fix-a-flat in your system.
And you do have a video on it.
I do have a video on that, yes. But I won't talk about it that much. But when you shred things, there's little pieces on the sides of those arteries and stuff to start collecting cells to fix-a-flat the holes. When you cut them absolutely surgically sharp, it doesn't allow, because the reaction of the body isn't the same. Why does that matter? Because the blades are not improving at impact. So the minute they hit however sharp they are, the minute they go through the first 3 to 5 inches of deer, they've now degraded. Eroded. I'm convinced I lost a lot of pigs because the broadheads I was shooting were pieces of crap, and they were flat and bladed. They were butter knives when they went into the pulmonary tissue. I'm a respiratory therapist. I know about keeping people alive with holes in their chest. I know how to kill people too, or animals or whatever, right? the reverse works. They tell you this is going to kill them, right? I don't kill people, but that's bad. That'll kill somebody.
Yeah.
Don't do that. Oh, okay. So that's a huge overlooked thing. And if you've got a pack of broadheads that you've had in your quiver for 3 years because you bought 6 and you shot 2 deer, the 4 you've got are garbage. Absolute garbage. They need to be sharpened. Unacceptable. Steel does not improve when it's sitting there.
No.
Take it out of the quiver, put it back in, hunt 10 days in a row, don't get a shot. And every time you move that broadhead, it's getting dull.
Good point.
We're not talking about it a lot,
Yep.
but they do not improve at impact. And I'm pretty convinced. I can't prove it. It's one thing Dr. Ashby said, man, I wish we could get all the animals we lost. I wish there was a way to find them and find out what went wrong. Do you know how much we'd know?
Well, you'd learn a ton.
You'd learn a ton. Success doesn't teach us anything. Oh, went over there and died. Okay, great. Unless you've made a change. But failure teaches you a ton. And I'm very convinced with the mud on the pigs, their durability, their very heavy bone structure in the thoracic cavity. Compared to a deer, it's 6 or 8 times as heavy, the bones are. They're short and blunt and very, very hard on broadheads. I'm convinced I shot a bunch of pigs that didn't die. And I got 8 inches of penetration, and the broadhead was absolutely flattened. The blades were dead. Couldn't do anything. And the pig just ran off. And they're durable as hell. They went and showed their friends.
Ooh,
Look
my
what
battle
this idiot
scar.
did to me. Guy's an idiot. You know. Well, I think I might have taken up too much of your time.
Nah,
Got
this
more
is
to talk
this is it.
about.
This is the runway we had. This is great.
Yeah, man.
Thanks for the couple callers, and thanks for taking time out of your schedule to be on the show. And we appreciate it. We we produce the same night, so this will be live in podcast land, fully produced in the next couple hours.
That's outstanding.
I'm gonna cut the
look forward
live
to
feed.
Listening to it, see if I was useful or not. I really I appreciate the opportunity to be on here and help other people out and kind of blow people's mind a little bit. I know everything I'm talking about to a lot of people going to listen to this is definitely off the charts, but I've said it like 16 times already. I'm going to say it again. The problem with Dr. Ashby is he didn't care how the arrow got there. He cared what happened when the arrow got there.
Mm-hmm.
So archery is shooting an arrow to a target. Bow hunting is getting the arrow through the target. And the industry is too concerned with getting it there. They assume, I get these calls every fall. I'm going to get exhausted in July and August. Okay, Fowler, here's the deal. Listen, I'm going out west. Don't blow me down an elk. What I want is an arrow that will shoot 265 yards and be 650 grains and kill anything. It's not going to happen. No. And I just reply, not available.
That's like watching that house hunter show that I watched with my wife. Like, I want, this house with these things in this location for this much money. And we only make, it's like,
yeah, right.
Bitch, you can't get all that. That's not how it works.
Yeah.
Like, increase your budget.
There's give and take.
Yeah.
There's give and take with everything. We got gravity.
Back in the old days, we thought bow hunting was a 35 or 40 yard sport. And now you got all these clowns out here, these long range guys who are, promise you, bro, all these TV guys who are shooting far, they're wounding a lot of things they don't put on video. I promise you.
I bet. Yep.
No, there's no I bet. It's not possible. They're full of crap. They show you the one they killed and they wounded 3. Or they shot the same elk 3 times and they finally died and they said, got him.
Yeah.
And if you really think bow hunting is an 80-yard sport, you really need to reconsider getting a 300 Win Mag and just calling it good.
Mm-hmm.
Because about 3,000 feet per second, they don't hear that. It works really, 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 really good. Bow hunting is a short-range sport. It always should be, and you should be concerned about the arrow going through the critters and being very effective in all cases, more than the purple color of your riser matching your peep sight and having an electronic sight that's going to short out on you when it rains, and then you're going to be pissed. You need to worry about your arrows and having them fly right and doing what they're supposed to do. I'm not coming off it. And
Don't. Yeah. Thank you.
it's okay. I don't really care what anybody thinks.
No.
I've been there. And it was frustrating as hell. Pig, everybody's like, well, they're just pigs. No, I want to get them. So it's been fun. I don't know, we've killed 200 pigs in the last 4 or 5 years, and a bunch of them with rifles and stuff. I bought AR-15s. I never owned AR-15s until the Trump-Hillary election, so I bought 3 before the election because I thought it wasn't going to go right and figured I wouldn't be able to get one. And I got angry at him with the AR and shot 56 one year. You had to test it out. You have to make sure it worked, you know. So it's been fun. Thanks again, guys, for having me on.
Oh, yeah.
I really
Troy, thanks so
appreciate it.
much.
If you have any,
Love
demand
having
for a
you.
follow-up call or anything, I'll be happy to come back and fall or whatever you want to do. And
We'll do that.
Be insane again.
We'll
I'm
do
good.
that.
Yeah.
We appreciate it.
I'm
Hey,
available. Yeah. Thanks, guys.
all right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in live video. Have a good night.